Looks like a couple are still trickling in, but we'll get started. Thank you for being here. As we're waiting, I'll tell a joke. I've heard that's a good way to start these things. It's a very cheesy joke, by the way. I weird sense of humor when it comes to joking. I like the dry sense of humor type jokes. Since Mother's Day is coming up, the joke goes like this: Why was the baby strawberry crying?
The baby what?
Strawberry. The baby strawberry. Why was it crying?
It was very sad.
It was very sad? That's a really good one. It's not it, but I do like that one. The actual answer is because its mom was in a jam. All right. As you can tell, it's very cheesy. There's Mother's Day jokes coming up. Hopefully, do you have any Aussies in here? Or some in the last one? I don't know if they celebrate Mother's Day on the same day. All right. I think the last of us are trickling in. So today we're going to talk about collecting powerful testimonials using Infusionsoft, but also Keap as well. To find out if you're in the right place here, and if you feel like this doesn't fit you, feel free to go check out something else. But either way, if you feel like you need to be collecting testimonials, this is still going to be really helpful, even if you don't fit all of these exactly. So if you sell a product or service that's generally high touch or high service, if you have a higher priced offer, meaning you generally have like a longer sales cycle, there's a lot of educating happening, this is going to be really good for you. If you're an Infusionsoft or Keap user who would like to get more out of using the tool. Do we have any Keap users in here? All Infusionsoft. Cool. So what we're going to talk about today is how to collect powerful and authentic testimonials, some best practices for asking for them, how to utilize Infusionsoft or Keap so we can automate that process. We'll talk about the correct questions to ask. There actually is a good way to, a best practice, I guess, for asking the right questions. And it's not complicated. So there's a lot of steps involved, but it shouldn't be complicated. And we're going to get into the software. We're going to do some screenshots of Infusionsoft. So if you want to like follow along, it's totally fine. Here's what things looked like for me, and I've helped implement this for other businesses as well. Before, what it would look like or sound like is, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, you just spent a lot of money with me, and can you write up something really cool about your experience? And then they wouldn't send anything back, and then you'd follow up a couple weeks later, hey, remember I asked you, you mind just like sending something over? And it's always really this awkward thing. And now, it's a little more systematized. We've got plenty of testimonials that come in automatically, obviously using Infusionsoft. I found that I've got, at least for my businesses, a lot more reviews, a lot more testimonials in businesses, even twice or 3 times my size, just because I actually have a system that helps me manage that process and automates it. So a little bit about me, Brett Farr. This is usually the question I get. Are you this guy? It's not the case. And I can tell if somebody they don't know football very well. They'll be like, oh man, that name sounds so familiar. How do I know it? And I'm like, famous football player. And they're like, yep, that's it right there. So this is the obligatory family picture. I just realized I'm wearing the same shirt. Has anyone here been using Infusionsoft since the logo was red? Any long timer? Okay, so yeah, there's a couple. It's been a long time. So I started using Infusionsoft, I think, almost 10 years ago, and the logo back then, and the website looked like this. Like this is their website. I don't know if you guys have seen much of that, some of the history of Infusionsoft. And I also used to work at Infusionsoft, so you can see my picture there. I was featured in a video as well on one of the things. I have a business that helps, I'm a certified partner, so help other businesses implement Infusionsoft, so that's why. That looks weird. That's not how it's supposed to come over. So just talking about Infusionsoft, talking about testimonials here. What that should be is, I think, 92%, so the other 8%. So this is a Vendesta.com study, and it's basically the number of people reading online reviews or testimonials today, and it's 92%, and then everyone else living under a rock is the 8%. I imagine this is probably closer to 100% with just the proliferation of Amazon reviews and Google reviews and all the other stuff going Here's another one, again, that should say, I think, 89%. This was a case study back in 2013. B2B marketers were asked what's the most effective type of content marketing, and according to them, 89% said testimonials and case studies. So not the most used, but the most effective. A couple of reasons here. Obviously, it helps create trust, convey authority, build a strong emotional connection, especially if you're doing headshots of people, video testimonials, those sorts of things. It can also help qualify your leads. So there's lots of reasons to do it. Is anyone familiar with this book, the influence book, The Psychology of Persuasion, Dr. Cialdini? If you haven't read it, it's about just how to influence others to make decisions. And so sales, marketing, all that, it's a really good book. And the reason I've got this here with the Jedi saying, in Star Wars, if you've seen that, he kind of like controls his mind by the wave of his hand. Basically, these are kind of like mind tricks a little bit when it comes to marketing. So use with good intentions, I guess, is what I would say. So I'm going to run through these 6 principles in this book that he talks about really briefly, and then you'll see why. So his first principle, these are all tested, and he did multiple tests to make sure these theories were accurate. Number 1 is reciprocity. We see this all the time in like the lead magnets out there. You give something to get something. This commitment, if you can get someone to commit to something, they don't want to necessarily go back on their word. So getting them to commit, even if it's just something small, they'll usually follow through. So if you can get someone to take action to commit. Liking, people just generally do business or do something, can influence somebody else just by being liked by that person. Authority, if you can name drop, if you've got some sort of clout, that helps influence somebody. Scarcity, this is the one that marketers use all the time. Sale ending in 24 hours, only 20 left. The thing that Tyler Garnes did, 20 seats only, that sort of thing. Social proof was the last one. So these 6 principles basically can help you influence the sales process. So if you've got a sales page or website or whatever, I'd recommend revisiting it with this lens. Can I implement some of this in those? And you'll definitely see an uptick in conversion. So the social proof, this last one, everyone else is doing it. Oh, by the way, if you want the slides, you can get those by texting slides. The number's down here on the bottom, I think throughout, yeah. So it's right there. Just slides to this number on the bottom, right? The quick story that comes from this book was the hotel towels. There was a study that he ran, the author, and it went something like this. 2 groups at the same hotel were presented 2 different messages when they're talking about reusing towels. So obviously the hotel wants the guests to reuse the towels as often as possible because it cuts down on costs and all the other stuff. And so they tested against 2 different messages. One, the first, as you can see, was help save the environment. So there's just a little card next to the towel that said, help save the environment, reuse your towel. The second one said, join your fellow guests in helping to save the environment. Almost 75% of guests who are asked to participate, and then it went on, something like that. Basically, what you can see there is 35% that didn't have this kind of the social aspect participated in it, and then it jumped to 45% when they use this verbiage of 75% of guests like you participate. So it's basically baked into our subconscious somehow. I know there's lots of psychology tests and things like that. We also do it all the time here. As you can tell here from this line, you can probably guess which one is the better food, or at least what you perceive is probably has the better food. You may not go in that line because it's longer, but in your mind you're thinking, yeah, the green truck probably tastes better than those other trucks back there. We do it all the time as well. I was just sitting in church the other day, and a sheet was getting passed around to sign up to help clean something. And normally I wouldn't have ever volunteered, but because everyone else was doing it in my row, and it came to me, I was like, oh gosh, man, now I have to do this. So I know it works. It works on me. All right, so that's just kind of the setup of just social proof testimonials in general, and they certainly work. So let's dive into the actual mechanics of building and what the campaign process inside Infusionsoft looks like. Here is, here's a quick video. I don't think it works. We didn't get the Wi-Fi going. I'll just briefly explain what happens. This is from Fail Army on YouTube. My wife and we won't like sit down and watch Netflix shows. We'll just sit down and watch YouTube fails. Like, I don't know why, it's just funny to watch people hurt themselves. And this is definitely one of those. The guy is very pumped up and he's excited, and he kind of like flexes his muscles, showing you how strong he is. What you don't see on just right next to it is it's a pool and it's frozen over. And his plan is to, in his Speedo there, do a cannonball into this frozen pool and break the ice. What happens is the ice doesn't break, and he just basically lays out flat after jumping 5 or 6 feet. So the reason I wanted to do that is because when it comes to really anything in business, but also just campaign building, I found with a lot of my clients is they are very excited. They have a plan in place. They go to do this amazing cannonball jump, and then they realize after hitting the ice that things didn't go as planned. So what I've got here is a 10-step process that is as hopefully foolproof as possible, ice-proof, I guess, as possible, to help you collect these testimonials on Autopilot. This is life cycle marketing. This is something that Infusionsoft used to teach a lot more than they do today. I wish they still would. It's basically the buyer journey, and it talks about what your customers will go through as they work with you in the buying process. And I think what happens is when people sign up for Infusionsoft and they're setting up campaigns for Infusionsoft, they'll spend a lot of time on the front end over here. But a lot of people forget that Infusionsoft can help on the back end as well after the sale has been made. So in the fulfillment process, in the onboarding process, testimonial gathering process. So that's something that I just want to hit home, is that part gets forgotten quite a bit. So here's a brief overview of what the campaign will look like when we're kind of done building it together. And there's always room for improvement. This is definitely not perfect. In fact, I'm in the process of rebuilding this even right now. So here's what it looks like. First, we need to create an amazing experience. We want to send specifically designed and worded email. We want to segment positive responses from negative responses, and then ask specific questions that are carefully worded to your clients or customers. We want to ask for a video, ask for a review, follow-up based on responses, and then watch and optimize. So here's a couple tools that I use for this campaign. The first one is basically required, Infusionsoft or Keap. And then some optional tools if you want to like augment and add on, bolt on what you're doing. Zoom for video conferencing, Appointment Core or Keap appointments. I guess no one here is using Keap, but they have that appointments feature. I think you saw this morning. Calendly, Schedule Ones, all those. Graphly for reporting, and then ZenDirect for gift cards and gifts. So we'll talk about all these and where they fit in this process.
What do you mean by this campaign?
That screenshot I sent you, basically I'm going to go through that in campaign of how you could set it up yourself or a modified version of it.
Or a modified. So that's like a basic grounding campaign, what you just showed.
Right. Yep. And we're gonna dive deep into it. So this is a client we helped set it up for, and since we're talking about testimonials, I figured I'd get a testimonial. And he says a big yes. That testimonial collection with Infusionsoft has been great, especially collecting NPS. We'll talk a little bit about that. Knowing who the promoters are, and having their testimonial captured inside their contact info. Talk about inside Infusionsoft. We were also able to schedule 3 to 4 video interviews. So that's, if you follow along with this process, that's what we're able to do with this. So step one, before you actually build the campaign, is we want to deliver results. This is key. We want to actually deliver results, not just make clients happy. So we've got a saying, don't make clients happy, make them successful. And the reason for that is, you know, if you look at like personal trainers, for example, you might have a testimonial from somebody who never lost weight. They're still overweight, but you know, the person might be saying, oh, they were great, they were so nice. That's not really that helpful. we want the fact that they actually lost weight. So step 2 is to map out the campaign. This is, again, going back to this. We're going to jump into more detail. Step 3 is to create a great first impression and onboarding. So if you look at that first sequence, I'm just popping into it. This is what we'll be doing here. And this is what that looks like. So what's happened here is at the very beginning of this campaign is the trigger. Basically when somebody, and this is, again, in my business, we do professional services. And so if you're in a similar space, you can probably copy this pretty closely. But just kind of modify it to based on what you sell and how you sell it. So when someone becomes a new client, they get tagged, or I've got this integration there you see with Trello, which basically pulls them into Infusionsoft, and the project has begun. And at that point, what's happening is we're removing some tags. We are applying some tags just for reporting purposes. We're creating a password for them that allows for invoicing and things like that, for-to-pay, if you're familiar with that. And then we have this welcome email that gets sent out. And then we use ZenDirect, if you're familiar with that one, to do welcome cards, brownies that just get fired off to the new client automatically, which is really nice. And then we wait a couple of days. We send them at that point like a manifesto, is what we call it, client manifestos, kind of just like what we believe in as far as the work that we do. And then after that, we just give them more support options. So this is basically the onboarding process. So wrapping our arms around them as much as possible, making them feel the love. And at this point, really, we haven't done anything. There's also a lot with this welcome email. There's a lot in there that captures their birthday for future things like that. So we're doing quite a bit as it relates to just the onboarding process. So the next step here is after we've kind of onboarded them and welcomed them, this is where we want to send a very specific email. So now we're in the second sequence. So somebody has moved from that previous sequence. They've received kind of the welcome emails. And then I don't know if I mentioned this on the last one. I probably should go back. Down here, there's a 30-day wait. So they receive this welcome process, and that's important for us because we're usually working with them for at least 60 days on any given project. So for us, at 30 plus the other delay timers in here, we're talking about like 6 weeks-ish before they start to get this next part. So timeline-wise, we are at this process here. There's three emails you can see, and then a fourth email if they don't respond. So email 1 goes out, says, here's a personal thank you from me. If they don't take any action, then they'll get another email. And if they don't take any action after that, they'll get another email. So really, these 3 emails, they have one purpose in mind, and that is for them to reply. And you'll see they've got a really specific mechanism in how we get them to reply to this email. So this is an example. So that's the same sequence we were just looking at. Now we're opening up one of the emails in what that email looks like. And tested a couple different things. This is kind of what I found works the best. And there's a couple things they're calling out their name right here. So how have we done so far, whatever their name is. And then click below to let us know. I've had clients that do like star ratings as well. So like 5 image, like with 5s, and then 4, 3, 2, 1 stars. I've also had clients do NPS. Is anyone? I'll just explain. NPS is like a kind of a global standard that allows you to benchmark your customer satisfaction score against like Amazon and Google and things like that. It's basically, you've probably seen it, even Infusionsoft uses it, which is how would you rate us 0 to 10 or 1 to 10, something like that. How likely are you to recommend us? I think that's a little too complex for just a small business. I don't think I need to get into that much detail. So I like to keep things simple. It's just the happy face. I think that middle one is called meh, a meh face is what I've been told, the emoji. And then the frowny face. And once they click on one of these, we're pulling them out. So that's why before we were going to send them 3 emails, up to 3 emails up here. As soon as they click, we'll pull them out so they don't receive any more emails. If they click the happy face, we're going to a very specific page that's different from the other ones. And the happy page is basically where we're going to start collecting our testimonial. So this is where the testimonial piece comes into play. And you can see here there's a video that is displayed that talks about the fact that we enjoy working with them and explains the form that we're asking them to fill out. And the form goes through a few specific questions that we'll jump into right now. The meh face, I guess, and the frowny face, those take them to a different page altogether, which, as you can see here, is definitely more geared towards those where it wasn't a great experience. So we don't want to necessarily ask those people for a testimonial because, for whatever reason, we didn't do a good enough job. So let me just pause real quick. Is everyone kind of like following along with just the way this campaign flow is working? Okay, any questions? Yeah, looks like we got a couple questions. We'll pause real quick.
Is all of this being done including the actual survey questions in Infusionsoft?
Is this all being done inside Infusionsoft? Yes, it is, including these forms and everything, yep. In Infusionsoft, well, I don't use the Infusionsoft landing pages yet, but now they've kind of come up to speed. If I were to rebuild this today, I would just use the Infusionsoft landing pages.
What landing page is it?
The new landing page builder inside Infusionsoft. Correct. If I were to rebuild this, currently I use my own website and custom code things and things like that. But yeah, I would just use the Infusionsoft landing page builder, which would make this process really that much easier.
Okay.
Yeah, Liam.
The icons that you have, the smiley face, how do you do those? Is it a link? How do you pass that data to a form?
Yeah, so these are just images, 3 images with links on behind them. And Infusionsoft knows if you click on that link and you go to an Infusionsoft landing page, it knows you can pass basically the hidden email address in the back. And so you can ask any questions you want at that point, and those questions will be mapped to their contact record inside Infusionsoft. So all within Infusionsoft. Yeah?
Thanks for taking questions, by the way.
Sure. It's a lot of, yeah.
So, do you know, have you any metrics on the percentage of people who actually get this far? Particularly if they're unhappy?
You wouldn't have any unhappy ones, right? So I don't, because it really depends on the type of business. I do, and I'll show you some of my own metrics in a couple more slides later. But yeah, I mean, it really depends. If you have a business that really is not a great business and doesn't do very well, you'll probably get a lot of these kind of.
No, my question is, overall, what percentage of people respond to surveys like this?
I see. Again, it's very subjective. You may have somebody that has a really, Greg Jenkins, I don't know if you know him, Monkey Pod Marketing. His audience, he sends them an email, they'll eat it up all day long because they just love everything he says. So if you were to send them this email, it'd be very different than somebody who doesn't have great engagement with their list already. So it's really kind of a subjective answer. Sorry, I can't give you a great answer on that. But I would say that from what we've seen, yeah, here's what I hate about these emails normally. In fact, I just got one last week. We were at a hotel, and 2 days later, it's great that they're following up, but 2 days later, I got an email that says, how did we do? Take our survey. That's like the most boring call to action ever. And so what this does is it basically creates a micro commitment at this point, and I'm still collecting this data. So if they don't move forward from this point, because all they need to do is click on a link, and if they stop at that point, at least we've got some data. We know they're one of the 3. But if they keep going, which we'll talk about, then we have even more data. For those that say, go take our survey, they have no data. There's no way for them to know anything at all about what the experience was. So this is why I think this is just a much better way to just collect information from your clients.
So if you click on one of those icons, it goes to a landing page?
Yes, an Infusionsoft landing page. And the difference is, I'll just go back one. This one goes, the happy face goes to one that's going to ask for the testimonial. And that's the landing page, yep. And this is currently an Infusionsoft web form, but this would be a different landing page if I were to rebuild it. And this is the, where they go if they click those 2. All right, so as you can see here, just back to the main overview of this campaign, we have this right here. We're tracking that. So the happy is getting tracked and tagged in the background.
So it's a happy tag?
It's a happy tag, yeah, I like that. It's a happy tag, and what we're doing with that information then is throwing that into Graphly, if you're familiar with this tool, which then allows us to just keep an eye on things. And this basically, as you can see here, a lot of happy, and we've got a meh And I know exactly who that person is, and it was just one of those things that it was just funny. I basically said, "You're not a good fit. We shouldn't work together." And they came back. This is back when I was surveying everyone, and they came back and said, "Well, you didn't serve me." So anyway, that's what that's all about. Yeah. All right. So step 6. Ask specific questions on the landing page. So this is where things start to get into the more interesting, I think. I think what a lot of people will do, and a lot of testimonials I see, is the example I gave before with like the personal trainer of like, they did a great job, or their customer service rep was so friendly. Those are good. Those are great to have, but they don't show, and you can see here the keyword is transformation, because what we want to do is we want to use these later in our marketing efforts, and we want to basically allow our prospects to put themselves in the shoes of these people. And if they can kind of put themselves in the shoes of these people and seeing this transformation that they went through, then we've got a much more stronger connection, more powerful way of just building that rapport with that person. So as you can see here, what we don't want is, "I love my new haircut, thanks." It's better than nothing, but it's not great. And the next one, you can see the differences. I'll just read it here. "I have felt frumpy and self-conscious about my hair for years, but then I found Julie here at Ooh La La, OMG. She totally gets how to make me look my best, and I get compliments all the time. But the best thing is that I feel absolutely gorgeous every day. Thank you." So you can see the difference here is at the beginning she was talking about how she used to feel, and now she kind of went through this transformation, and now this is how she feels now. So that's basically how we want to guide these testimonial questions. By the way, this is all from Donald Miller's Story Brand, if you're familiar with that book, another really good book. He goes through, basically I'm copying his questions, so this is not from my own brain. Here's basically what he's recommending. So the questions are, what was your absolute biggest challenge prior to working with us, or something to that effect? How did that challenge make you feel? What changed after working with us? What specific results can you share? What would you say to someone who's on the fence about working with us? Do we have your permission to use this information? And then I've added this last one here, which I want to get into in a little bit, which is about doing videos and things like that. Yes, again, so if you want those, I see some more pictures. So if you want, you can just text that slides to this number. It's on the bottom right. You'll get all the slides after this. Just go back. So I'm just going to talk about this one more time. Again, it's the transformation. The first couple questions are talking about what it was like beforehand, and that's where we want our prospects who are eventually going to be reading these testimonials to see themselves. And then we want to talk about what it's like to work with us, and that's why the final questions. On the following page, this is where things start to get a little bit tricky without actually doing a live demo, but basically what's happened here is somebody has clicked on the email, they clicked the happy face, they went to this, from there they went to the page where they answered our questions. It's directly right after. And then as soon as they hit submit on that page, they're taken directly to this page. So that's basically the funnel, if you can kind of see it. Email to this page, email to testimonial collection to then this page. So this page is asking them for an online review. Some businesses don't necessarily participate in this. I think you can or you should. And what I've done to make it easy here is, you can't see it here, but basically I'm taking all the answers they gave me and I'm putting it on the thank you page. All you need to do is copy and paste it and put it now on the next page. So, and I'll have it just as a single click here in the future when I update this process. But the idea is they don't really even need to take much action other than clicking one of these buttons, review on Google or Facebook. And if you're on like if you're a lawyer, I think Avvo is a popular one. So I know there's like industry-specific ones as well, and usually they'll have a link specifically to your profile. So that's what's embedded behind these two buttons. Is when they hit leave a review on Google, it'll open up a new tab. It'll auto-populate our review site on Google with 5 stars pre-populated. All they need to do is paste the answers they've already told me into there and hit submit. Obviously, we can't submit it for them. And Google would never allow that. But this is as close as we can get to making it as easy as possible. Sounds like there's some more questions. Let's go quick.
So somebody brought up the other day that by doing this process, you're filtering the reviews. So you're filtering first before doing the reviews and Google is coming back and saying, we don't want to have filtered reviews, we want real reviews. Have you heard anything about that?
So I don't know if everyone heard that. Basically, he's saying Google
Asking him.
Google doesn't like this process. So I haven't heard that, but that wouldn't surprise me. Google doesn't like you filtering reviews. I would say, yeah, that's a judgment call. For me, the size of my business, I would never be worried. I don't think Google would ever come after me, and even if they did, there's no way that they would. It's not that I'm not allowing others to leave reviews, right? Like they could go and leave reviews if they wanted to, but I see what you're saying. Yes, and then in the back.
The first set of questions that you asked, you say you take that feedback, maybe use it on your website or something, versus this you're trying to use on an online, Facebook, Google, somewhere. But the first set where you ask questions was just for you to use maybe on a landing page or a website?
Yes, those questions are getting saved to their record inside Infusionsoft. So I've got those answers and.
Okay, so it's more so collecting the data.
Yep,
How
just collecting the data.
On our website is kind of a different decision process.
Yeah, and that's why I've got one of the questions in there, which is important, is can we use this information? Yes. And then the video stuff will come in a little bit later. And then I think there's a question in the back.
As far as the filtering, just don't do it with Yelp. You can, no problem with Facebook, no problem with Google, but don't try it with Yelp. That's where you'll get nailed.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so if you're a local business that really relies on reviews, I would definitely kind of audit this and make sure it is what it's supposed to be. Because I know local businesses definitely, they've got big sway with these online review sites.
You said there's a way to give them a link that pre-populates 5 stars?
Yes. Google it. It's a tricky thing, and that actually might be another thing that maybe Google doesn't really like. Yeah, I could see them probably not liking that. So just ignore what I said there.
I won't go.
I think they're even here, right? He gave that stat. One guy gave the long talk this morning. Speaking about filtering, it kind of just shuts everything down. But these are some reviews that if the Great Wall of China could do this process, this is what they would filter out, which is, this is just some comic relief. This guy says, this is a Great Wall of China, by the way, the reviews on the Great Wall of China. Not very tall or big, just saying, kind of liked it, sort of. This guy says, not a wall guy, lame. And this guy says, I don't see the hype in this place. It's really run down and old. Why wouldn't they update this? No USB plugins. And he gets 20 likes. I don't understand. A couple more on Amazon. This person says there's no wolves in this movie, The Wolf of Wall Street. This lady says don't buy this book because you can see the ending from the beginning. Where is baby's belly button? It's right there. And this one's long, but basically it's a kid telling a story. He bought these gloves. He's getting bullied is what it sounds like, and he bought these gloves to try to fight off the bullies, and it didn't work. So he gave it 2 stars. All right, so step number 8 is to ask for a video in the follow-up. So one of the questions was, will you do a video interview? So I know a lot of people I've seen people try where they just say, send us a video review or a video testimonial of your experience. The reality is you won't probably get anyone to do that. There's just no one that's going to really take the time to do that. So what I like to do instead is, so this right here represents that testimonial collection process right there. So that landing page with all the questions on it, that's what that web form is. And then you can see the decision diamond right after that's basically filtering the answers. And it's saying, did they respond yes to the video review question? And if so, then we'll route them down a specific sequence here that waits 4 hours after they submit that form, and then it says, thanks, can we set up a time to do that video? So within this email, I don't have a screenshot of the email, but basically the email says, click here to go to appointment core, which will allow them to schedule themselves in my calendar, and will auto create a Zoom meeting for us to do that video interview. So what I found is if you do it that way, people are a lot more likely to take you up on that because it's you asking them questions, and they're just answering the questions in like a normal conversation. And depending on your business model and business type and things like that, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs that are already online and using Zoom anyway and those sorts of things. It's not as scary. So again, modify to your audience. If you think this wouldn't work, then leave it out. But what that allows me to do is basically use Zoom has I think I've got a slide here. Yeah, so you can tell this is an actual conversation happening. But Zoom works something like this, where it's basically face to face, and you can actually record it, and then I can take that recording, splice it up, and use it the way that I need or want to. And the cool thing about this is that all I'm doing is I'm basically just asking them the questions that they've already answered. So within that form that we have them go through the transformation process, I'm just asking basically the same questions. I modified it a little bit, but that's basically it.
Do you think Zoom is the best product for this?
Versus something else?
Yeah, anything else you like?
So I'm going to mention it here in a little bit, but there's another tool called Boast.io, which is another tool out there, and it's built specifically for video testimonials. But what I found when I tested it with one client specifically is what it allows you to do is embed a little widget on your website that when they click on it, it opens up the webcam, and they allow that to happen, and then the person can just talk into the webcam kind of freely. But what they found is, again, going back to what I just said, people weren't as apt to do that because they didn't want to just start talking to a webcam. People are much more likely to engage in a conversation if you're just interviewing them. So to answer your question, yes, I think Zoom is probably the best option for this.
Is it better than just asking clients to just do it on their cell phone?
Yes, absolutely. Because again, if you can maybe do FaceTime and record it or something like that, maybe that would be better, more convenient. But actually having the conversation is always going to be 100% better because people aren't going to just make a video. Very few will, a lot less will. Yes?
How long do you decide to spend with people on Zoom? I'm sure having more content is nice for choices, but it needs more editing time. How do you determine how much time you're going to spend chatting with people?
How much time? It depends on how good the conversation is, how much they have to say about me and how great I am. Yeah.
Keep going, keep going.
Yeah. So what I actually do in that email here is I promise them it won't take more than 10 to 15 minutes of their time. So I try to respect that. And if you're going through those questions, then it shouldn't take more than 10 to 15 minutes because everyone's busy, and that's a big ask for them to sit down and do one of these videos. But yeah, it's a good question. And again, we've just got one more contingency right here. 8 days later, if they haven't responded, so 4 hours after they leave the testimonial, we're asking them to schedule. 8 days later, if they still haven't done it, then we're going to ask them one more time, and then I basically give up. And you'll see later that maybe I'll change that around a little bit. Step 9 that I do here is a 10-step process. I know there's a lot going on. It's just 10 steps, so we're almost there. Is that I'll ask for vendor referrals. So not direct referrals. What I found here is that when you ask somebody, do you know somebody else, sometimes it's somewhat awkward. But at least in the B2B space where I live, a vendor referral is a lot more likely and a much better referral in the long run. For example, somebody referred us to a website company that has a lot of Infusionsoft needs with lots of other clients that they have. And the client was more than happy to say, yeah, this is my website guy, and he's having a hard time with Infusionsoft. Can you just talk? And so, yeah, of course, we'll talk, and we'll get it working for the client. It'll be great. At the same time, the website guy says, oh, this guy's actually kind of good to work with, and I should send him more clients. So this is just just an interesting concept here. Rather than asking for direct referrals, ask for vendor referrals. Again, this is industry specific. That may not work for you, but in most cases, I found it would. Yeah, that's just basically what that's doing there. 13 days out, it's just kind of poking in, just thanking them one more time for their testimonial and then asking for those referrals. Timing, I don't know if this is great. I probably will fix that later. I don't know what 13 days even means. So the final step here is to watch and optimize. And just like with any campaign, it's basically a funnel from left to right. People flow through it. And this is just some data from a couple weeks. And what you're seeing here over on the far left, 12 new clients. plus a couple that came in from Trello. Of those, quite a few are responding on those emails. This is what represents the happy face and the meh or sad face. And of those, pretty good numbers will actually fill out this testimonial collection form. So you can kind of see so far, our funnel-wise, this is actually pretty good. Where I see the bottleneck here is that we had a bunch say, yeah, they'll do a video testimonial, but really, in this time frame, only 2 actually scheduled it, or we did it. So there's probably more, and I can see why, right? Like, everyone's busy, and even though I say it's only going to take 10 or 15 minutes, there's still that weird thing. So this is, if I were to kind of revisit this is definitely a bottleneck, getting, just following up more with people or making that process even that much easier. But yeah, this is basically the process and what that looks like. So just a recap here. We want to deliver results. We're going to map out the campaign, create the great first impression with the onboarding process. You want to do that survey email with the happy faces. You want to segment those responses by tagging them. Ask very specific testimonial questions. Online reviews, that number 7, that's again, filtering stuff, it's all up to you guys. Scheduling the video interview, follow up and ask for referrals, and then watch and optimize. So that's basically what we just talked about. As a tools roundup, this is ZenDirect. This is the one that sends out, if you're unfamiliar, this is the one that sends out gift cards, brownies, things like that in an automated way, accepts an HTTP post from a campaign builder, and just fires it off. You just need to make sure that your account has money in it. Automatic appointments, Appointment Core, Keap has this now. Calendly, schedule once if you're probably familiar with those. Zoom we talked about. GoToMeeting, there's a bunch of those as well. Graphly was the pie chart that I showed you, which is some graphing and reporting analytics tool. This is the boast.io that I talked about, where you can embed just like a little thing. Someone can just click on your website, yeah, I want to record myself in a webcam. Again, the client we tried it with, it didn't work that well, but it just depends. It might. They also have an app so that people could download the app and then record it. Again, that's maybe a lot to do. Evidence, these guys are here. This is the same guys that built Graphly. We talked about social proof early on. This pops up, so-and-so just bought, or so-and-so just scheduled a demo, so-and-so just did something. So just less testimonial, but kind of social proof stuff, kind of in the same vein of what we're talking about. Again, if you want these slides, all you got to do is text slides to that number, and that's the campaign. That's it. Yeah, so let's do some Q&A stuff. Yes?
Have you received any negative feedback from the brownie mail out? Like, oh, I'm gluten-free, oh, I'm sugar-free, oh, I'm something other free, Have you received any of that feedback?
I think it's the gesture more than anything. I haven't. But I think people would still appreciate the gesture. What I have heard is that somebody received theirs and ants were crawling in them. And that's obviously not that great. But again, the gesture is, hey, I wanted to send you a gift. I mean, I don't know. I mean, for me, if my clients were doing that, that's probably a good indicator that I probably don't want to work with them. If they're complaining about a gift that I sent them, I'm like, all right, fine. Have you tried them? Have you eaten them? Oh yeah, you've had the brownies.
We use them.
So you do that process as well.
So we know they're not that great. They're okay.
But it's the gesture, right?
The gesture.
Yeah, exactly.
Do they sell perishable stuff, or is there non-perishable?
Yeah, there's non-perishables. I think you can mugs with your logo on it, things like that. Any other questions on implementing the campaign itself?
So if you have 1,000 5-star reviews, does everybody trust this guy's amazing all the way through? Don't you need a couple 3s or 2s in there? The first place I go on Amazon or somewhere is what are the complainers saying? Not to be negative, but what's the downside of this purchase, this product, this highly reviewed company, whatever?
Online reviews, that's not necessarily my expertise. I couldn't tell you. For me, I don't know. If you're going to get 1,000 5-star reviews, congrats. I would bet anyone in here would love 1,000 5-star reviews. My guess is that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. So in the meantime, you'll probably get some that just filter through that don't go through this process and go find you. If they really are mad, they'll go find you elsewhere and leave that, and you'll get that 1 or 2 star.
Do you think they're valid or no?
Yeah.
I mean, all 5s and no 1s or 2s or 3s.
You have a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to just look at the whole, right? Like if it's, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question for you. I think it's more of a personal judgment. Any other questions? Yes.
So I have testimonials on my website, and they're strong, and there's probably 30 of them, or 40 of them, I don't remember last time. Is there any imperative to move them around or change them out, or can I just leave them because of all the new eyes that are coming and looking? Any thoughts on that?
Yes, I have a couple thoughts on that. So she says she's got 30 of them, just I guess, just sitting on your website. What I would do is I would look at which testimonials can work better on specific pages. So what I might do is look at, like, you've got a sales page, and of the 30 that you have, maybe there are 2 that really talk specifically about this product, and I'd pull those 2 out and I'd put them on this sales page that have anything to do with that product, and I'd approach it that way. You'd probably keep the 30 on your website and just make it more specific. Yes.
Similar to the question I asked earlier, have you done any like testing on how long the form, not the written form should be, or how many questions you should have to like get people to actually finish the form? I mean, I can imagine if it's super long and people jump on that page, they're intimidated, don't fill it out or something like that. But have you played with the length of your testimonial form?
Not really, because I'm using basically the questions that I mentioned Don Miller Story Brand recommends. Those are the 6 or 7 or whatever it was that he recommends. And you can kind of play with them, but they do follow there's a pattern to them. And they basically walk someone through their journey with you. And so, yeah, I probably wouldn't play with them too much, but I'm sure you could. I haven't tested it to give you a solid answer on that. Yeah, Liam.
How do you put them into one unified testimonial? So you ask the 6 questions, then you say you conglomerate them into one paragraph. You put them into custom fields and then use the merge fields to put them into one.
Yeah, so I've got some trickery going on with like back end stuff, but yeah, they're just custom fields.
But you can do that natively. You don't need like an extra application to put that together.
That piece, maybe you might need. Yeah, yeah, I can talk to you about that, but you probably like the default landing page builder. I don't think can do that. Yeah, so you might need some extra for that. But that's only really the purpose of that is to help them just copy and paste it onto the review site. Cool. Well, thanks for being here.